Well, hello everyone, this is Mohammad Badrudduja and today I am going to solve lab number 9 from SQL injection vulnerability module. And this module belongs to server-side vulnerability, and I'm taking these labs from Web Security Academy from Portsieger. Before going to the lab, this warning as always for you, this video and its contents are only for educational and awareness purpose, and I do not support any unethical or illegal act. So before starting, very sorry because today I'm having throat infection kind of problem, so maybe my voice is not up to the mark, so please bear with me. So up to now what we have covered, like what is SQL injection, how it occur, and what kind of damage it could have if your web application is vulnerable to SQL injection vulnerability. And what we have done is we have a lab which is retrieving hidden data. Then we covered a lab where we subverting application logic, and in this we actually bypass the login functionality. Fine. Then we retrieve data from the other database tables, and then examining the database. And also there are two sections. One is SQL injection union attack. So in the union attack, what we have covered is first of all we determine how many number of columns returned by the database through the application query. There are two ways. One is ordered by, and the second one is from union select null. Second, we determine, after knowing how many number of column returning by the query, we determine the data type, and then using SQL injection union attack to retrieve interesting data, right? So we have covered all these labs. We also covered how you can retrieve multiple values in a single column. That's it. This is from the union attacks. Then we come to the next section, which is examining the database, where we find out the database type and version. So here it is. Okay, querying the database type and version. So we see database type like Microsoft SQL and MySQL, Oracle, Postgres SQL. Why it is so important? Because if you don't know the data type or the database version, you won't be able to execute a successful exploit to this vulnerability, because when you execute the queries, you need to know the database version or database type so that you choose the exact or correct parameters to execute the query. If your parameters are not correct, you won't be able to get the fruitful results, right? So today the lab is actually listing the content of the database. Now suppose you know that the database is Oracle or MySQL, and you also know the version of the database. Now you need to know the tables inside that database, and in a particular table how many number of columns are there and the column names, right? So before going to this is most important, that most databases type, not Oracle, have a set of views called information schema, which provide information about the database, right? So information schema is a kind of view in which you will be able to know the tables inside the database. Fine. So we will see that in a minute. So here is the lab. Fine. And the lab is this one. SQL injection attack, listing the database content on non-Oracle database. Non-Oracle database means Microsoft SQL, PostgreSQL, and MySQL. So let's see what we have in this lab. SQL injection attack listing the database content on non-record or database. Agenda of this lab is this lab contains an SQL injection vulnerability in the product category filter. So the result from the query are returned in the application's response, so you can use a union attack to retrieve data from other tables. The application has a login functionality and the database contains a table that holds username and password. You need to determine the name of this table, and then you need to determine the columns it contains, and then you have to retrieve the username and password, and then you have to log in as administrator, right? So in the analysis section, we will actually cover approximately all the labs in this lab. So the first thing what we will do is we will find out whether this application is vulnerable or not. Lab itself said that it is vulnerable and product category filter is vulnerable, but we will test it. So SQLi test. Second, if the application is vulnerable, then we will find out how many number of columns returned by the query. So number of columns, then we will find out, we will determine the data type, fine. And the fourth one is we will also let's say determine the database type and version. Then we will list the tables, then list the columns, right? So these all the tasks I will going to perform. I'm going to perform in this lab. So let's go. As we know that product category filter is vulnerable, so I will test it. Lifestyle, I'm going to put single quote and hit enter. So as you can see, internal server error because this syntax is wrong. So to create the structure, I'm going to put one dash, hit enter. Still it's not working. I'm going to put another dash, hit enter, and yeah, now it's working fine. So anything it is after this, it is going to comment. Now what I need to do is the first task we have completed. We test the SQLi vulnerability. Now we need to identify or determine the number of columns returned by the query. So as we can see this result, there are two columns. One is product name and the another column is product description. Maybe there are more columns, but not rendering in this page, right? So let's try this. Union select let's say null, hit enter, and internal server error, because it will give us the error until we reach to the exact number of column. So let's put one more null, hit enter. So as expected, as you can see, there are two number of valid columns, right? So this task is also done. Now we need to determine the data type. So come here, let's try AAA, hit enter. So yeah, the first column data type is a string, or you can say varchar. Let's try BBB, hit enter. This is for the second column, and as you can see, second column is also a string. You can also see from here that these columns are strings, fine. So the third task is also completed. Now we need to determine the database type and version. So for this, come here and let's say at version, hit enter, and internal server error. So at version is used for MySQL and MS SQL, but it is not working, means the database is not MySQL or MS SQL. So let's try this, hit enter, and as you can see here, this is PostgreSQL 12.1 Ubuntu, and this is the version compiled by GCC, and it is 64-bit, right? So now we also know the copy, come here and put it here, data type, so paste here. In the data type we used this AAA, okay, and in number of columns we put paste null, fine. And here we tested this with this and this, right? Now this is the task. We need to list the tables. So as we know that non-Oracle databases contains a view named as information schema. So here what we need to do is we need to see information schema. So let's say table underscore name. This is the first column, and instead of BBB you can put BBB, but after every table name it will show you BBB. So instead of that I can just put null, and let's say from information dot schema schema, sorry, not dot, here it's underscore information underscore schema dot tables. Hit enter. Oh, what I messed up. Table name from information schema, and as you can see here all these are the table name. Now I want to show you the difference between this and if we put BBB, what is the difference. So as you can see, every after table name you will see this BBB value. So I don't want to see this, I just want to see all the table names. Come on, yeah. So now you need to see it closely, see this result closely, and here the interesting table is going to be catalog name, views, usage privileges, because we need to find out the username and password. So most probably the table name is going to be users. Let's see, Control F, users. So this is the table name. I'm going to copy this, come here, and here I'm going to put username. Also I want to put this query from here up to here. Copy, come back here, paste that. Fine. So this is the user table. Now we need to know how many columns are there and what are the names of the columns. So for that, instead of table name, here I will say column name from information schema dot columns, where table underscore name is equal to table name, and the table name is this. So copy, come here and paste it here, hit enter. Column name, so these are the column names: username, password. Fine. So I'm going to copy these, come here, paste that, and come here, paste this, copy, and paste that here. Fine. These two columns exist in this table, and these columns contain the username and password. So now to retrieve the username and password, we need to create a new query. So instead of column name, here we put this column. So paste it here, and to retrieve the password, we need to copy this and paste it here. Not from information schema this time, from table this. Fine. So this is going to be your query to retrieve the username and passwords. Query to fetch the usernames and passwords. Okay. So union select, this is the username column and this is the password column, and from this table. Fine. Come here, hit enter, come down, and as you can see, all the usernames and passwords are here. So this is the username because we put the first column as username column and the second column as the password column. So I'm going to copy all these, come here, paste that here. Now to solve the lab, what we need to do is we need to go back to my accounts, and here we need to log in as administrator, and the password is going to be this. So copy, come here, paste the password, hit enter, and as you can see, we are logged in as administrator and we solved the lab. So thank you very much for watching this video. If you like the content, please like, subscribe and share. And if you have any query, please put your query in the comment section. See you in the next video. Bye.